current changes into the future. We first have Brett Lear, who is our new Director of Services. Would you like to say a few words?
Oh, sure. Good evening, everybody. I'm Brett Lear. I'm the new Library Director, and I'm thrilled to be here. I come from Florida, a county called Martin County, just north of Palm Beach County, and directed a library system there for a few years. My wife's in the audience, too. She's a librarian, and our son's here, too, Wade. So I just wanted to say hello to everyone, and thank you for this opportunity. There he is, Wade and Marjorie. And I do want to thank David and Jamie, too, for the work they've done in keeping this ship afloat for the last several months. So thank you very much for that. And again, I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you.
Okay, and we have Ken Neiman, who comes to us all the way from
Michigan.
Okay.
My wife and I moved here about 3 weeks ago. Really enjoying the area. Looking forward to becoming part of the community.
Mic check.
It's on. And just looking forward to getting to know everybody, working with everybody in the future.
And Ken's our new CFO. All right. The other announcement is, I think I'll say it here. Next meeting, as many of the commissioners are aware, is the last meeting for many of the commissioners. And just as an announcement, I probably am about to get reappointed tonight at Petaluma City Council, and I think it's pretty assured since nobody else applied. So I will be back. But I have a request of the retiring commissioners for the next meeting. I'd like you, if you would like to, take a chance to reflect on your service, what kind of suggestions you might give to new commissioners. And then one other thing that was on my mind was a lot of things have kind of maybe fallen off plates, and the table's a little messy with policies or things that maybe, given all the things we've been dealing with, have not been followed up on. So if there are some things that you think are really important that the new commission know or remember to not let get lost. So I'm giving you a heads up for this month so that you have some time to think about it for the next month. Okay? Any questions? No, but I could see a big grin down there. But All right. Next item on the agenda is public appearances. Are there any members of the public who wish to make a statement to the commission at this point? All right. There being none.
There's one.
Oops, there's one. Come on up, down. You have either up there or down here. Whichever place. Down here is probably easier to see. The other's backlit.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Michael Zebulon. I live in Rohnert Park. I make use primarily of the Rohnert Park Library, although not exclusively so. I've been asked to come down here today by, among other persons, the head librarian in Rohnert Park, because of some matters that I've brought to her attention. And it occurs to me that there are a couple of things that need particular attention. My understanding is that traditionally libraries have had two primary functions: that of promoting literacy and that of facilitating research, personal, professional, scholarly, so on. I have to tell you, with all due respect, it's virtually impossible to get any serious work done in the time allotted to a patron in the library online. I see two basic reasons for that. The first has a lot to do with noise. In recent years, the library has become something on the order of a penny arcade, or a romper room, or a community meeting place. All of those things have their own functions, but when they interfere with the two primary functions that I just mentioned, I suggest with all due respect that there's a conflict. And it occurs to me that the library has, in recent years, been trying to be all things to all persons, and I don't think that's possible. I think you have to make a decision about that. I've seen similar problems at other county libraries as well. I mean, it's not just the one that I frequent. The other problem is limited bandwidth. If you've got serious work of a writing or reading nature to do online, having people watching video games, playing video games, or listening to music, or watching movies, it cuts deeply into that time. It slows down the computer considerably, and as a result, sometimes you wait and wait and wait while the timer doesn't slow down, and eventually you run out of time before you get anything done. I can't tell you how many times there have been that I've meticulously prepared a blog for maybe 45, 50 minutes or so after waiting about 6 or 7 minutes to log on, because that's sometimes how long it takes, and then clicking post and sitting there with my heart in my mouth, hoping against hope that the post will in fact post before my time runs out and the whole geschmear is washed clean.
Your time is up, sir.
Okay.
Thank you. If you have a written statement you'd like to leave with us,
I do have a written statement. I didn't write it for this purpose. I wrote it some 7 years ago, and I mailed it to the Library Commission 3 different times during the period of October through December of 2007. I have to tell you, frankly, that I never got a response. I never even got an acknowledgement. It went out 3 times verbatim, because I figured maybe the first time it got lost in the mail.
I'll be happy to
3
accept it
times.
individually right now, so thank you. Any comments from the commission? Any other public comment? Thank you very much.
I just wanted to say that on the agenda tonight, we will be discussing the improvements to the computer system, including bandwidth, so you might want to wait and hear that.
Thank you. Okay, Library Advisory Board reports.
Good afternoon. My name is Mike Neely. I'm the president of the Windsor Library Advisory Board, and I came today to talk about a project that we did to solicit input from the community about what their to solicit input from the community on what their requirements are, what their priorities are. We're supposed to represent the community, and it struck us that we've never asked them what they want, what their priorities are. So we did it in 2 ways. We had an open house on May 3rd, and then we also had a questionnaire that was filled out all during the month of May. We had a good turnout. Is that a Okay. We had a good turnout at the open house, considering that we only had 2 hours because the room was booked for a children's program later on, and we were competing with a Cinco de Mayo presentation or party outside on the green that day. We had the questionnaire available in both English and Spanish, and the interesting thing to us was that 40% of the questionnaires we got back were in people who used the library in Spanish. There were people came in that day, and we had tables covered with paper so they could write their comments on various topics, the collection, facility, programs, and just general comments. And in general, the comments that we received matched very well with what we got on the questionnaires. There was a great appreciation of the staff in general and a very high regard for the library itself. And teachers said how much they appreciate what the library does to help them. In general, the satisfaction level is very high, 9 out of 10. We had one guy, I say guy, I'm not quite sure, in his 80s, who thought that the library should take this electronic stuff away from children. And so he gave it a low mark. And interesting enough, in the ones who received from the Hispanic people who used the library in Spanish were higher than the others. In general, I believe that a lot of those people don't have the resources at home. They rely much more on the library. We asked people what they used, and the most used by twice was books. I was expecting more of the media, other media, electronic media, to be more popular, but there were twice as many users of books as there were anything else. They also went to the library just for information, get the librarians to help them. And then the computers and a reading area, working and studying. The same comment that was brought up earlier, they liked the use of it. But they didn't use the library more because generally the inconvenient hours. They wanted to open later at night, on Mondays, on Sundays even, which Windsor's never been open on Sunday as far as I know. But people said, well, I work, I don't get off until late, I can't use the library very much. So then we asked them what was most important to them, and by far the clean, safe facility and well-stocked materials were the highest, followed by a quiet study area, which I think also reflects the previous study. And computers and laptops were also important. In general, we asked similar questions in different ways to try to get people to think about the question from different aspects. Of course, when you ask anybody what they want, it's more of everything. That's exactly what happened. They want more hours, more space, more books, more expandable downloadable library, bigger selection for children, etc. Okay, but the things that were interesting was that they wanted tutoring for children, both in English and Spanish, helping because they say a large percentage of the population is Hispanic, and they wanted to help their children get ahead in English. And also people in English wanted their children to be able to get help tutoring in math. And the other thing we hadn't even thought about was to have programs geared toward adults. Most of the programs we have are geared toward children or maybe young adults, teenagers. I don't know that we actually have any place that we could do that, then we don't have a lot of space left, but that's in time booking the facilities, but that was an interesting comment. So then we asked for priorities, and we asked things that are very important, somewhat important, or not important to you. And the interesting thing was that the materials and hours availability were equally important in general, with the others falling a little bit further behind. We tried another thing where we tried to have people rank from 1 to 5, and obviously we didn't state the question properly because some people took 1 to be the highest priority and other people took 5 to be the highest priority, so we couldn't use that. So then we had them, the last question on the questionnaire was them to write any comments that they wanted that weren't covered in the questionnaire. And they were all very appreciative of the staff, how friendly and willing to help they were. Okay, they want the library back on Mondays. They love the library. They just need more space. They make my job as a teacher easier. And the library is important for a future generation. And they love the library. Thank you. So that was all I have to say. Are there any questions?
Thank you. And thank you for your work on the lab. That's greatly appreciated.
Okay.
Anything? Yeah, David?
I have a question. It would be really nice to have a copy of your survey instrument.
Yes, in fact, Bill has it. Bill Coolidge has
Bill,
it.
okay.
I put all of the responses on a spreadsheet, and then he has the originals of it.
Yes, that's great. And I had a question about how frequently do you think Windsor will be doing public outreach?
Well, this is the first one.
And congratulations. I think it looks like it was very successful.
We took the questionnaire that Roanoke Park had done a few years ago and then updated that. And if we were to do it again, we would make certainly some changes in the questionnaire again.
And on your lab, did you ask the lab members the same questions? Did they have
They were there
preferences in the
I
survey?
don't know if they filled in questionnaires, but they were certainly writing comments on the tables.
Uh-huh.
And,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? All right, thank you. Now we have an annual event. Presentation. I believe there's a visitor in the audience. Sometimes she's called Kathy DeWeese, but today she looks a little different.
Good evening,
Good evening.
commissioners, my esteemed colleagues, fellow scientists. Welcome to my laboratory. What's that you say? That you are not scientists? I see that I am surrounded by scientists. According to my esteemed author, Barbara Lane, in her book, What is a Scientist? A scientist is a person who asks questions and tries different ways to answer them. Isn't that what you do at these meetings each month? A scientist is a person who learns from her senses, notices details, draws, writes, measures, counts, sorts, tests predictions, experiments, thinks logically, keeps trying, and has fun. That's what a scientist is. I am here this evening. By the way, my name is Dr. Fizz. Nice to meet you. I am here this evening to share information about an important scientific experiment that we will be performing in the libraries across Sonoma County this summer. We will be attempting to see what happens when you combine 8 weeks of summer vacation with 11 library branches, over 5,000 children of ages preschool through teenage, more than 80 children's programs, more than 40 teen workshops and craft programs, and countless, I can't count that high, countless books to be read. We will take all of these ingredients. We will stir them in a large pot, and I have a hypothesis. My hypothesis is that we will observe a reading explosion. I predict that this big boom will start on June 10th with the beginning of this year's Sonoma County Library Summer Reading Club with the science-based theme, Fizz, Boom, Read. Notice it's named after me, Dr. Fizz. Children who are pre-readers through grade 6 will sign up for the children's program. They will get a reading, and you each have a packet of prepared materials. The paper-clipped portion is the teen program. We will come to that later. The children who sign up for the program will get their reading log, on which they will record the reading they do all summer long. Each week they can participate by reading, coming to the library to attend programs and check in their progress, and they will earn incentive prizes like a free book bag and a free book and also a cool robot pencil. Oh, yes. Everyone wants one of those this year. We have great performers coming in. We have a program called Extreme Science Magic, which will be at every branch. Dan Chan Magic Man, I believe, is at every branch. We have an Australian didgeridoo cultural performer program coming to, I think, 9 of the 11 branches. We've got Stuntology, a popular program coming back to teach the kids how to do those silly tricks that parents probably will get annoyed at. Sorry. Traveling Lantern has not been here in about 5 years. They're coming back to every branch except for Petaluma. Petaluma said no, thank you. The Puppet Company, we've got another puppet performance, but lots of programming. And the programming is all in this, the children's programming, may I correct myself, is in this lovely schedule with a calendar by branch. Sorry, calendar by branch. with a description of each program on one of the back panels. This year we have an insert of Spanish to actually we provide the Spanish translation of every program for all. What else? Oh, exciting news. Exciting news. We are extremely grateful to the Sonoma County Public Library Foundation, as well as the Friends of the Library groups at every branch, for the generous financial support that allows us to offer this program each year. Also, for the second year in a row, we have cultivated a relationship, with the Petaluma Seed Bank. You see what I did there. And they will be donating a packet of seeds for every child who participates, which is over $10,000 worth of seeds. Go Petaluma Seed Bank. We love you. We have a fantastic staff of mad scientists, children's teen services librarians, who make this all come to life for the children of Sonoma County each year. The Teen Read program materials are available in that second clipped packet. The Teen Read program is a game card-based activity through which they gain points by reading books and completing library activities. This is the game card. The list of activities they complete is on this orange sheet, which is also available in Spanish, which is yellow. They can introduce themselves to a friendly librarian to get a point. They can read a book for 2 points. They can read a specific kind of book for 3 points. They can create an artistic representation of a book for 4 points, stamps. All of these things add up, and then they can win prizes all summer long. And then the other part of the teen program is each time they read a book or attend a program, when they fill out a review card, book review on one side, program review on the other side, when they turn in a review card, they get a raffle ticket for a chance to win a Kindle. Oh, yes. Lots of teen programs. Look at this busy schedule. Who remembers 2-3 years ago when there were 5 programs the whole summer long for teens? And now we've got 5 a week, if not more. We've got lots of teen programming. Teen workshops and programming include cartooning workshops, improv classes, beading, origami, the ever-popular henna art, and then a few fun offerings dreamed up by the mad librarians at the branches. Isn't science fun? Any questions about this year's summer reading? I anticipate one. We are not doing a separate early literacy program this year like we've done the past 2 or 3 years. The librarians decided they would like to do this focus on the Rubber Ducky Club at a different time of the year because the children's program does apply to the pre-readers as well as to the readers. So they're going to do the early literacy focus program, I believe, in November, which coincides with a month, reading month, literacy month, something like that. So. Any questions?
Is someone donating the Kindle?
We did purchase them. Do you
remember which Kindle?
It is a Paperwhite this year.
Okay.
Yes, with Wi-Fi.
Kathy, you did say this was children of all ages who could participate?
Yes. From birth, pre-readers up. The children's program is birth, pre-readers up to grade 6. Oh, I see what you're saying, Mary Evelyn. Children at heart, I see what you're saying.
Yeah. Can we go by personality age? Mine stopped at 13.
There are all levels of participation. You could put on a silly wig and a jacket and show up at a library, and I'm sure you'd be very entertaining.
Or get arrested. I don't know.
Well, the evening's not over yet.
Yeah, okay.
Again, so much great work and wonderful to see. Any other comments from the commission?
It's great to have you back.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yes.
Any public comment on this presentation? Dr. Fizz, I deeply appreciate your presence. Go home and have a fizz. Oh, all right. Thank you. Moving on to commission reports. The first is on the Ad Hoc Joint Powers Agreement Committee. We are the latest news is that all of the entities have approved the new JPA. So it looks like the new commission will meet at the first meeting in August. What is that date?
4th.
The 4th is the ice cream social or some social, and the is.
I think we're calling it a signing ceremony.
We're calling it a signing ceremony.
Yes.
Oh, all right. The signing ceremony, and there is also planned in July. The tentative date's the 21st of July. What we're calling Commissioner Boot Camp for a meeting of the former commissioners and the current and the new commissioners to have a chance to have a meeting and do some education about what it's involved in being a commissioner.
What's that date?
The 21st of
July 21st,
July
and right
20th.
now we're thinking 3 to 6 p.m.
3 to 6.
What day is that?
That's a Monday.
And that means that I believe we can un-ad hoc the committee. And I think that it's been an interesting year and a half, and it'll be interesting to see how things proceed. Is there anything else I needed to mention on that there, folks? All right, the next is the Ad Hoc Revenue Committee, and first of all, I want to double check. I believe that committee currently is Helena and David
And Jennifer.
and Jennifer.
I informed her at the last meeting.
You informed her at the
that
last
she was on that
that she
you
was
had
on
put
that
her on
committee.
that committee.
All right, and that committee is, in a way, its focus at this point is the possible tax election.
Well, there is a subcommittee of that committee that has includes people who are not on the commission, but that is one of the focuses. The other is we review the financial information for the library too, on an ongoing basis, which we haven't done in months. But
Well, we've been involved
right,
with
we've
other
been
things.
in transition. So I have I just sent a doodle poll today for a meeting prior to the next commission meeting. So that's how I got David's email that he was out. So we should get together before that next meeting, before the next commission meeting. If we need to bump it up because of the ballot measure, we would.
Well, we've been doing some thinking about the need to proceeding on the ballot measure, and you folks fill me in here if I'm speaking incorrectly in terms of where we are. This Thursday, some of us are meeting with David Rabbit to talk about the possibility of getting on the Board of Supervisors agenda. What we think makes sense at this point is that as the chair of the commission, I write a letter to the Board of Supervisors, essentially asking to be on their agenda to talk about the tax initiative. The time is obviously running short, and I basically would, first of all, my sense of what we've discussed in the meeting so far is that the sense is that the commission is in favor of a tax initiative. But we have not and cannot take a formal action upon it unless it's an agenda item. But I'm wondering if I can have thumbs up from the commission about writing a letter to the Board of Supervisors requesting that we be on their agenda to discuss, to be a possible a tax initiative on the ballot. Thumbs up, favor, against? Okay. The other issue related to that is that there is the possibility that the Board of Supervisors won't have the time or get to it. And it may be that we're expecting or hoping to have on the July agenda a look at the options before us. And one of the options that we may present or probably will present at that meeting, is that we would ask the new commission at its first meeting in August to put a ballot measure on if the Board of Supervisors doesn't do one. So that essentially is that right? Essentially what I have heard is that the deadline is that first week in August. So that if the new commission agrees to do that at our request, but we will need to take action on that at the next meeting. So I wanted to give you a heads up about that. Anything I'm forgetting in that? Nope. Okay, so before we go on to commissioner reports, can we have any public comment on the Joint Powers Agreement subcommittees and or the Revenue Committee report? Any public comment? There being none, let's go on to the commission comments. Major items and lab report. We'll start at the end of the table.
The City of Sonoma closed the opening for the new commissioner on Thursday. They had 3 applicants who were interviewed today, and the mayor will make the appointment at the city council meeting 2 weeks from today. There you are.
I don't have anything to report.
The Roanoke Katati Library lab did not meet last month, so I have nothing to report also.
The Guerneville Library Advisory Board met on May 14th, and they've been busy. They have agreed to work on modifying the Library Advisory Handbook that Sebastopol put together, so to make it their own. So their meetings, they have an ad hoc committee meeting to do that. The Friends had a book sale, and they made over $3,000 from their book sale, and they have a book sale planned in August. Then Sebastopol met on May 7th, and one of the things that I thought it was, the art committee still continues to be kind of a controversy in Sebastopol as to who started it and who's responsible for it. So at this point, it looks like the art committee is not, the Library Advisory Board does not want to be responsible for the art committee. So unless the Friends decide to take that on, which they have expressed no interest in doing in Sebastopol, that the branch manager would oversee the committee and work with that group. So I'm sure more will come about that. The Friends had their annual meeting that I attended on Saturday, and they had Chris Smith from the Press Democrat spoke, and it was very entertaining. Let's see, there was a good turnout for that. One thing I did want to be sure to mention and hope that people would be interested in participating in is the City of Sebastopol has taken responsibility for overseeing the landscaping around the library and City Hall buildings. And it's looking really, really good. So if you're interested in taking a look at it, short of going over to Sebastopol, you can go to www.ourfrontyard.org. It's really starting to shape up. They do still need people to participate in making sure that it gets finished. And part of that is donations. So check it out. And that's all I have to say.
Okay.
Tim, I
Yes.
forgot to say that our friends had a book sale and made over 11,000.
Yay! Ours had one and made 4,500. We just had a program I wish I hadn't missed from Catherine Reinhardt from the library. She's, I don't know how many people know about Petaluma, but Petaluma has a street called D Street that has the largest houses on it. And so she did a history of D Street. And apparently it was one of the largest attended events at the Petaluma Library. It was quite popular. The thing that has hit me a little bit as I've been thinking about libraries more is that, I'll get back to Petaluma in a minute. I've been thinking about library issues a lot lately and the role of a commission in terms of national library issues. I think the one that came to mind for me most is this current issue that at first doesn't seem like it's an issue regarding the library, which is net neutrality. But I've been reading ALA things and different things lately, and the issue of net neutrality is a really significant issue for libraries. It's the ability of people to have bandwidth, for the public to have access. And it may be a little late for this commission to begin doing that, but I think it would be useful for the commission as a whole if there are issues that are of concern to libraries in general that are national or state issues, that perhaps we take positions on them, that we state we think the net should be neutral for the benefit of the library. And so that has been on my mind of late. Petaluma is losing our much beloved branch manager. He's retiring in July, as is one other wonderful staff member. So there will be some changes in Petaluma coming up. I believe the interviews are even this week for the branch manager. So essentially that's all. Jamie was going to report on this on the Santa Rosa lab.
Tim, excuse me 1 second. I just want to say, Catherine Reinhardt, I want to do a shout out because she did have the room full. I had to stand. Little old ladies had to leave because they didn't have seats, but it was well attended, and it was on. I think anything historical like that for any of the libraries would be really of interest. And I just have to say, since Catherine is a staff member here, that she does an excellent job, and she loves history so much. I think she would go to any branch anytime and do a history talk. So I just wanted to say it was really special, and everyone really liked it a lot.
And I think the public tends to take the programs for granted that the library presents, and they take work and thought and are really high quality. And I think we need to really be sure that the staff knows that we appreciate the effort that they put into making things happen in our libraries.
Okay, the Santa Rosa Lab met on May 21st. They have scheduled a Latino programming meeting for May 27th at 3:30 at the Northwest Library, and they invited the entire lab to attend. They're going to be discussing programming and outreach to the Latino community. The Santa Rosa Lab is interested in piggybacking on Sebastopol's Books on Wheels program that they're piloting right now with grant funds. So they were very interested to learn more about that. The Rincon Valley branch is planning a 20th anniversary celebration on August 23rd. I think they're doing special events all throughout the year, but their big festivities will be on that day. The Santa Rosa Friends reported that their spring book sale was very successful with, they didn't have final numbers, but they had estimates at this meeting of around $33,000. Of which $20,000 would be profit for them. And they also reported that they've taken in about $13,000 from the 4 mini sales that they've had in the last 12 months in the Central Library Forum Room. And overall, they anticipated being able to give about $42,000 to the Santa Rosa libraries. We also talked about the Rose Parade that occurred on May 17th, and there were staff from Central and Rincon Valley libraries that participated in a library group that marched in the parade, and there was a drill cart team, and there were also volunteers that came out, and the theme was to honor the volunteers that are the library's heroes, and the group took home first place for their category. So that was exciting. The youth member on the Santa Rosa Lab talked about being interested in the Hoopla service, which is a streaming media service, and she mentioned that there was a mobile app that came along with it. She was recommending that the library look into that, and she's also been researching having library volunteers read to the elderly at the Friends House in Santa Rosa. I think that's it.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Tim. I have one more item that I'm remiss in not having mentioned before, and that's that in Sebastopol there is a group of people who they began as a committee of the lab to research the possibility of the need for and the possibility of having a new library for the city of Sebastopol, or in the city of Sebastopol, a new building that would be bigger and accommodate a lot more things, more computer space, more meeting rooms. So it's become a 501. Well, it's applying for 501c3 status from the IRS, and has been received incorporation status from the state of California. So it's off to a good start, and you'll be hearing more about it. We'll see if we can get a presentation at a future commission meeting about their thoughts, their plans, their fundraising things. So thanks. It's called Lantern.
Lantern?
Lantern. It's an acronym.
Acronym. I don't hear Sebastopol in there. Anyway. Okay. Is there any public comment on the lab or commissioner comments? Moving along to the approval of the minutes, and this is going to be a little bit intriguing because there are people who can vote on different approval of different minutes, and if there may be not a quorum for the minute to the people who can vote, so we're going to have to go through each one, and I'll try to be as efficient as possible. The first set of minutes to approve is 7/1/1 Budget Planning Workshop number 2 from March and special meeting. The only person here who was not at that meeting is Paul, correct? Mm-hmm. So that means that there are 4 of us who can approve. No, because you weren't at that meeting either. So there's not a quorum to approve that meeting.
And where's Tom?
Because, okay. Moving right along to the minutes from April 4th. Is that the interview committee meeting?
Yes.
That's the interview for the, and I believe we have a quorum to approve those minutes. Is that true?
Yes.
All right. Is there a motion? The April 4th.
I move.
Go ahead.
I move to approve the April 4th special meeting draft minutes.
Is there a second?
I'll second. Oh, go ahead, Mary Evelyn.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Pardon me?
Mary Evelyn.
Mary Evelyn, second. All right. Next, we go to the April 7th meeting, which is the meeting, a regular meeting. And we had present Mary Evelyn, Tom, David, Paul, Tim, and Helena. So it looks like we have a quorum to be able to approve those. All right. Do I have a motion?
I move to approve the April 7th minutes.
All those.
I second.
Okay. Did you get the second? All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, so that's the 7th. The 17th, that was a special meeting. And Tom and Mary Evelyn were absent. And
So we
so,
have 4.
pardon?
We have 4.
You can vote.
We have 4?
Yeah, Jennifer, Paul, Tim, and...
All right. So, all those in favor, I need a motion.
I move to approve the minutes for the April 17th special meeting.
A second?
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
May 12th. I don't believe we have a quorum for May
Don't.
12th.
Yep.
Mary Evelyn, the 3 of us were not there, so only 2 here. Okay, so some more go to July.
And it says in the minutes that I was there, so.
I think it was amended.
Oh, was it amended before?
Yeah, I think you sent out an
Okay.
amendment of that.
Did I get the amendments?
Yeah.
Never
But it's not in
mind.
your packet.
Never mind.
Do we know if any commissioners will be absent at the July meeting?
We have not heard of any, but I don't know. I haven't heard of any yet. All right, correspondence and press coverage. We did get this in the email today. There was a letter to the editor in the Press Democrat about the libraries. Any comments or questions about the press coverage? Moving along to the consent calendar, there being nothing on the consent calendar, we'll go to right number 10 on the agenda, action items by motion. The first 2 have to do with agreements. The first one's related to Siri Dynix annual costs. Do we have a motion regarding this before we discuss it?
So moved.
So moved?
Yeah.
Okay. Second?
I'll second.
All right, did you get the second? All right. So are there any questions from the commission regarding this? This happens annually, right, Mike? And so no questions? Any public comment regarding this issue? The renewal of our contract? All right. Call for the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Draft motion number 1 has passed. Let's go to draft motion number 2. This is the executing the agreement for workers' compensation insurance, and it's a not to exceed for the policy year of 14-15. Do I have a motion regarding this issue?
I so move.
Second?
Second.
All right. Is there any commission comment or questions regarding this?
I appreciate the attachment that gave us a little bit of information about the costs comparatively. I'm assuming you've worked on that, Patrick. Okay, thanks. Did you want to say anything about that, or?
Not really. I think it's fairly self-explanatory. We're estimating the cost actually to come in around $247,000, if not even slightly less than that. But because of the way the workers' comp rating system works in the state of California, carriers aren't going to be in a position to present their final formal proposals to us probably as late as mid-June. So that's why we've set it up this way, that, requesting authority to approve an agreement that comes in less than what our current one is, and that we're certain of, that it will come in less.
And you'll just update us as to what the final?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
I found myself thinking about the claims, and I'm fairly certain that the issues that may lead to the claims are looked at and attempted to be mitigated. Am I clear?
One of the things we do, we generally meet monthly on a safety committee meeting, and we do as a group review the claims that come through and look at, are there things that we can be doing as a library to help mitigate that exposure, lessen the exposure. We actively provide employees with adjustments to their workstations. So yes, we look at every claim to see if there's something that can be done or could have been done to help, minimize that risk.
All right, thank you.
On that note, on that chart you did, that 10-11 policy year, there was a huge jump in claims. Do you have any idea what that was attributed to?
Personally, I would say that's attributed primarily to, that's when we really started to take an active look at the claims. Also, we did take we made a concerted effort to encourage staff to report to us early on when they were experiencing symptoms so that we could make adjustments to their workstations. In the past, people weren't either not reporting at all or waiting till it became so serious that it not only resulted in medical attention, but also resulted in time off from work. So I think what you see there is more a matter of claims happening because of increased awareness among employees and their responsibility to report those kinds of things. And since then, we've taken measures to, like I say, make adjustments to workstations, educating staff a little bit more on symptoms that can lead to long-term issues, as well as educating staff on proper ways of, lifting, shelving, working at a desk, those kinds of things.
Thanks.
Is there any public comment on this this motion regarding the payment of this to our workers' comp insurance? All right.
Tim, can I just clarify one thing? There was a statement made that we're requesting authority to spend up to the amount spent this year, whereas actually we're requesting authority, and according to what was budgeted in advance for the 14-15 year, which is considerably more than what was spent this year. It's very unlikely that would happen, but I just wanted to clarify that the authority we're asking for is actually $293,358, whereas this year's premium was $269,554, and we expect it to be less than that. But I just wanted that to be out in the open.
Okay, so the 293 was in the budget. All right. Any other questions from the commissioners? No. All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Moving on to the audit engagement letter. This is to do our annual audit. Is there a motion?
I move that the Sonoma County Library Commission authorize the director to sign the engagement letter with Beals, Soper, etc.
etc. Second?
I'll second.
Get that, Rebecca? All right. Any questions from the commission regarding this? Any comments or questions from the audience, from the public regarding this? All right. Calling the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? There being no opposition, it passes. The next issue was discussed at the last meeting. It's the report on the OPEB liability. Is there any, first of all, is there a motion?
I move that the Sonoma County Library Commission accept the actuarial valuation report dated April 7th from North Bay Pensions.
Second?
Second.
All right. You basically discussed this at the last meeting. Are there any further questions? All right. Any public comment regarding this report? All right. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? There being none, we'll move on to the next item, the Library Advisory Board membership form. Again, you discussed this at the last meeting. So I think I would like a motion.
I'll move that we accept the revised Library Advisory Board application form.
I'll second.
All right. Are there any further comments from the commissioners regarding this form? Any comments from the public regarding this form? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? There being no opposition, it passes. Again, the next item on the agenda was discussed at the last meeting, right? Medical, yes. And I would entertain a motion.
I move by resolution that the Sonoma County Library Commission adopt the family medical leave policy.
A second?
I'll second.
All right. Any further questions from the commissioners regarding this document? Any questions or comments from the public regarding this document? There being none, I'm ready to call for the question. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? We are accepting that. Next item is the setting up of the selection of the OPEB Trust Administrator. We do have John, excuse me if I mispronounce it, but I'll try. John Swedensky here from CalPERS. If we have any specific questions for him regarding this document. It again, too, was discussed at the last meeting. So I'm ready for a motion.
I'll move by resolution that the Sonoma County Library Commission approve the selection of CalPERS, California Employers Retiree Benefit Trust, as an administrator of the Sonoma County Library's OPEB Trust. And I authorize the library director to establish the trust.
I second.
It's nice that we're moving on this. It's been hanging for a while. Any other questions, comments from the commission regarding this issue? No? No. Yes? No. Any public comment regarding this issue? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Well, we've passed everything. Now we're on to the discussion items. The first item is the updated chart of accounts. David or Jamie, do you want to give any background on what's happening here? Or
Sure, I'll do that.
okay.
We've been working on this for a couple of months, beginning with our interim CFO, Bruce McConnell, and several of the managers and then the full library management team. And we were looking at all of the descriptions and titles for the different budget lines. And basically we cleaned up the descriptions, made them more accurate. And in some cases we eliminated budget lines or consolidated budget lines. And in a few instances we added new budget lines and really tried to streamline it with an eye towards making each line attributed to a particular department or division, so that in our new financial management system and the way that the 14-15 budget was adopted, it was structured by division. So all of the budget lines are going to be, monitored by a particular division manager or library director. So all of the numbers and the codes in here are the same as it's been for years. Those will eventually change to the new codes for the new financial management system. But the focus of this was, again, just the titles and the descriptions and getting those updated.
Is the only new one PR and marketing?
I think there's a few. No, there's a new one on page 6 for ergonomic furniture and equipment.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Those are the only two I see.
Essentially, the commission takes no action on this, basically.
Right, it's informational.
It's just information. Mm-hmm. Are there any other questions from?
So are we going to transition in July?
July 1st. Yeah, the staff in the Budget and Finance Office have been attending training sessions on the new system, and our new CFO is also starting to attend those sessions. So we'll be ready for July 1.
A lot of work.
So are there any other questions from the commissioners? Thank you for this. Any public comment regarding the chart of accounts? All right. This may go down as one of the shortest meetings I've ever run.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll move on.
Summer sessions will start.
What?
This is the summer next year.
Okay. All right, network audit findings. This is a nice one. This was such thrilling reading. All right, Mike, you want to fill us in a little on this?
Sure. As you probably know, networking is an ongoing project. It never has a beginning, never has an end. When we went to the voice over IP phone system, there was concerns about the long-term health and expandability, sorry for my grammar, of the network as we add more services and more technologies to the library system. So what we did was we contracted with this TeamLogic IT, who is a local company, to do a evaluation, monitoring, and present a report of their findings of the network. So what you have in front of you is their findings. The good news is they didn't really find anything wrong. So there's no like big bells going off. It's not the most exciting. We can just flip a switch and everything will be bulletproof for the next 40 years kind of a report. However, there's not a whole lot of things wrong. They called it a network that's grown organically over time as things have been added, branches, services. We've expanded as needed. And it's worked. There are things that we need to work on. The biggest thing that was brought up earlier by the gentleman from Roanoke Park Cotati is bandwidth. Honestly, I don't think we're ever going to have enough bandwidth in the library. As we move down the road and add more bandwidth, more services are going to be provided. He brings up the idea of streaming media, which is a big deal in libraries right now. It does chew up a lot of the bandwidth. One of the things that we're working on based upon their recommendations, there was 4 recommendations that came out of this I should start off with. Upgrade the bandwidth of 4 of the branches, the 4 heaviest users, which were Petaluma Central, Rincon Valley, and Northwest. Maintain or support contracts or keep spare parts for all networking equipment. Consolidate routing protocols. Pardon me, right before I had to talk, I got something in my throat. And select and implement a monitoring tool. Again, not a whole lot of big bells and whistles kind of a thing. We've been working on the bandwidth for a while now. Currently what we're doing is we're reviewing our contracts with Comcast, our internet service provider at the branches, making sure they're up to date, seeing if we're getting what we're paying for, so to speak. As you know, with the internet, you go down the road, they start giving you more bandwidth for the same price. Quite often you have to pursue those changes, though. They're happy to not change it if you don't notice. So we're working on that. Part of that, a big part of that, is the wireless networking, providing a lot of laptop and mobile users that bring their own devices to the library to make sure that they have the bandwidth provided. And then there's the balance of making sure that the PCs in the building have what they need to do their research or whatever they might be doing. So we're working on that. Consolidating the routing protocols. It's a little above me, but basically it's the EIGRP protocol was back before I started when we worked directly with Cersei Dynix as our support for networking. They set it up. It's a Cisco proprietary protocol. Over time, we've moved it to a different protocol called OSPF. Unfortunately, I don't know what those mean, but we have both of them in our system. David Lytle, our network administrator, has gone through and already removed all the Cisco proprietary protocols. And that's just to get rid of clutter in the network, so it's all talking the same language. And network monitoring. What they did to monitor the network is we set up something, MRTG, which is a network monitoring tool, that looked at what's being used in the branches, the bandwidth, in trying to find out which branches needed the more of the bandwidth. That's where those 4 recommendations came from. But it was good enough for this test. We're looking into getting better monitoring devices so that we can do this on an ongoing basis. They gave us a list of like 4 of them. They do come with a price, so we're looking at the different options as far as pricing. So next time we can keep on this ourselves. The biggest thing is, again, the bandwidth, and we're working on that. We're updating all the wireless access points throughout the branches for better range, speed, and reliability, and then making sure to balance that with not detrimentally pulling too much bandwidth from the wired devices within the library, so that everybody has an equal amount to share. So, not exactly riveting, but I'm more than happy to answer any questions you may have.
Mike, is this audit the kind of thing that you do every year or a couple of years?
This is the first time that we've actually done something on this scale. we keep tabs on what's going on our own to make sure that we're being as efficient as possible. But this kind of a project, this is the first one that has been done since I've been here. It was rather expensive, which is one of the reasons why it's not done more often. But from what they found and the tools that they've provided us, it'll be something that we can work toward doing ourselves and keeping a better tabs on. And that's the big part of getting some networking tools to monitor and shape traffic and so forth.
Thanks.
As part of the report, were they really looking at the firewall? Obviously, we're all concerned about, not that we're actually going to get a cyber attack here in the library, but I didn't see too much about protection.
They did look at the firewall. We contract with a company called Checkpoint. We just got a new firewall last year, and we just purchased a redundant firewall in case of any hardware failures that David Lytle is working on. He took some classes from the company itself, a very reputable company. David is very careful with security issues. That's one of his highest priorities. So we take that very seriously, not only our own as staff, but the public as well, and most certainly all the patron data as well.
Somewhere in the corner of my mind, with cobwebs on it, there's a thing about the governor's budget had money in it for bandwidth for libraries.
I think David wants to chime in.
Yes, that's not so cobwebby. I think.
Oh, okay.
I think you're good. There is still money in the governor's budget for the Scenic project, which is a statewide backbone project for existing currently that connects educational institutions, primarily K through 12, and also the state university systems to a high-speed backbone. Now, in order to get all libraries in California connected to that backbone, it would cost probably somewhere in the hundreds of millions of dollars. There are $3.25 million set aside in the upcoming budget year. The lion's share of that is to purchase memberships in Scenic for all of the public libraries in California. So the $1 million that's left over after purchasing those memberships with the Scenic backbone would go towards one or two low-hanging fruit kind of projects. In other words, connecting a few libraries that are really pretty close to the backbone already, but not quite there, leaving a great deal of work to be done in the future with rural libraries, especially places like the West County, both West Sonoma County, West Marin County, all of Mendocino County, all of Lake County. The places around here are really going to cost a lot to connect. So there's no real sign on the horizon that connectivity will be happening anytime soon, but it would be really fast if it did happen. I mean, the bandwidth would be incredible. It's a 1 gigabyte per second bandwidth.
In the short term, the library does have fiber backbone between the branches for staff communication, Horizon traffic, and then with Comcast, we can turn up the bandwidth. It's a subscription, and so we have options for that. Again, it comes back to evaluating the current contracts and the level of service we're getting now, and getting more out of that, because we want to be as frugal as possible with the money we spend on bandwidth to make sure that it's balanced for where we need it the most. There are branches like Cloverdale, perhaps, they don't need the bandwidth that Petaluma does, for instance. So whereas we want to provide equal service, but one branch is going to need more to provide that level of service.
Other comments or questions from the Commission?
Is there an internal goal as far as, I don't know if you can break it down per patron, but the type of speed of bandwidth the patron gets, kind of alluding back to this gentleman's comments earlier?
Not at current. As far as a quantified amount, that would be one of the things that we could be working on with the strategic planning process that's upcoming. It's always it's ever changing, I guess. You know, when I first started 10 years ago, in the afternoons it would get so slow because there were people that were bottlenecking the network, and it was down to dial-up speeds, if y'all remember how slow that could be waiting for a picture to load. And at that point, we upgraded to the Comcast to get more bandwidth, and as more media is provided, we continue to turn it up, but then it's the balancing out so that you can do the research as well as using the library as a meeting place for whatever a person might need on those internet PCs. So to answer your question, no, not at current. It's a great thing that we should have as part of our planning process. Right now, we're just getting to the point of using these different tools to make sure that we can equalize the bandwidth usage to at least a moderate level per patron.
Okay, great.
Also, I might note that outside of the network audit that we're doing, another big project that we're working on to improve the public computers is right now we are migrating all of our staff PCs to Windows 7 with Office 2013. With the goal in my mind to get the public computers using those same computers, better computers, using a modern operating system and modern productivity software. Have to train the staff on how to use those things first, so we had to do the staff first. But just having those new operating systems and PCs in place will improve how well they work as far as both a media device and for research purposes as well.
Did you want? I was just going to say I really appreciated your question about bandwidth per person. In my previous library, we had traditionally measured success by square footage of buildings per capita and books per capita. And we had just decided before I left that we really needed to rethink that. And one of the standards that we were thinking about going toward was bandwidth per capita. So it's certainly something to consider as one of the things we measure ourselves by.
As I'm listening to it, it's almost like Petaluma has more staff. It's like it's almost a metaphor for staffing and collection. Just the same thing you're talking about is the size of the library.
Yeah, the bigger the building, the more people, the more staff, the more computers, the more bandwidth. It's all totally interrelated.
All right, is there any other comment or questions? Thank you. Is there any other comment or questions from the commission about this? Public comment about?
If I may.
Come on down.
I have to say that when you equate what people are doing listening to music or watching video games with serious work in the way of research or writing, it makes no sense to give two patrons, one of which is playing video games and another of which is doing serious writing, the same 60 minutes on the clock. I would suggest, for what it's worth, that you consider prioritizing either that or, quite frankly, cutting out certain kinds of activity until such time as you can avail yourself of infinite bandwidth. My thanks.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to the management report. I'd like to call attention to the bottom line of page 1, and I think the commission all would like to extend their congratulations.
Thank you very much. It was quite a surprise, too.
What?
Yeah, they had me all set up there was this emergency meeting in now Brett's office to prep for his arrival, so I had my pad of paper and I was ready to go and walked in the door, and there's cupcakes on the table and stuff, so I was totally surprised.
Gotcha.
Yes.
They must not have talked about it on the network.
It was very nice of them.
All right. I'll just start off by saying I'm so pleased about the kitchen cabinet, and it's embarking upon the task related to the tax election, and it's wonderful to see at least many of the people here who I know have been around the library for a long time, had a wide range of opinions about what needed to be done, and to see Julia and Bruce and this committee starting is heartening to me, and I'm very happy about that. Any questions or other questions about the management report? Guys, anything? Digital Branch is ready to take off this month?
That's right, this month. We're in June, so it's next Friday, a week from this coming Friday. That would be the 13th of the month, an auspicious day to launch our digital branch.
Now, does that mean that if I log on to on Saturday to the library, I'll be presented with an entirely new page?
No, it does not mean that.
Okay, what does it mean?
It actually means that you will be presented with the same old page and a link to look at the beta version of our... Oh, can you show it, Mike? That would be great. We can show it to you here. How does it look today? Brace yourselves. We're still in the last phases of getting everything cleaned up and ready to go. But for the first couple of weeks, it'll be a beta approach, and people will choose to go there. And the default page will still be the current website. And then as of a couple of weeks in, when some survey feedback has been solicited and looked at and some tweaks have been made, we will make it be the default web page that people land on. And there it is. And so you'll see a rotating image that comes up, and a new menu bar going across with books and more, research, locations, events, teens and kids, and specific content for each of those categories that you can then open up. So we're pretty excited about it. We've been working with our design company, Cherry Hill, for the past 6 months or so to work on the programming and design. And I think it's going to look pretty darn good. We'll see. We'll get feedback from staff, public, people who live in Germany, wherever. I mean, people, it's the internet, right? So
I downloaded a ebook on Overdrive in Bolivia. Took forever. Talk about dial-up speeds. I'm wondering a little bit, I noticed the comment here about introduction and orientation, transition from the interim directors to Brett. Is there, how can I say that, ask this? The thing that's in my mind is that I know in terms of you two having been interim, other people have backfilled a lot of what you've been doing. Is there a specific date when everybody's back where they're supposed to be? Today's the day. Okay. Well, all right. That's a pretty specific day. And I think we would all almost give a standing ovation to what you folks have done over this interim period. Yes. It feels like the ship is not only kept afloat, but being steered in wonderful directions, and I appreciate the thought, care, time, and attention. And if anybody else wants to chime in.
Absolutely. I mean, it was a difficult period, and you guys are tremendous. And I think it was reflected by your little surprise party the other day by the staff. I mean, that The staff appreciate it. We appreciate it. So thank you. So what are you going to do with all this free time that you have?
Their job.
David's going to Maine.
David's going to Maine?
You're going to...
Oh. All right.
So did you think
Yeah.
today would actually ever come? Were there times where... But truly, we so appreciate everything that you've done and how hard you've worked, and you've done a beautiful job. What were you going to say something, David?
Thank you.
Great job.
I do have,
What?
no, I do have another
Okay.
question. Okay.
David was gonna-
On the LSTA grants, I think we had a good year for LSTA. And thank you, Rebecca, for the coding camp, too. That was exciting. So what LSTA grants do we have in the future that are coming up?
What a good question. So there's some interesting developments happening. One grant, we had one opening to pitch an idea this year, and we pitched the Service to Homebound Patrons project at the Sebastopol Library as a pilot project for a way to get materials to patrons who are homebound using existing networks that visit homebound people, such as Meals on Wheels. And the State Library really liked that idea, and they funded it. We also have, to my right, a sort of a rising star in the field of librarianship in California. That would be Rebecca Forth, and she was a Eureka Fellow this year. I think you recall that we mentioned that in an earlier report. And part of being a Eureka Fellow is that you write a grant, and it's LSTA money as well. And Rebecca has written a wonderful grant proposal for an art program and oral history program with our homeless population here in Santa Rosa, focused out of the Central Library over a period of several weeks, 6 to 10 weeks, something like that, in the dead of winter, 12 weeks, at the time when people most need to be able to get indoors and have some warmth. So utilizing the library space for that and getting some bang for our buck in terms of an oral record, a historical record of what our situation is in the country, in this country today, vis-a-vis the economic downturn and the effect it's had on people, and also providing our homeless population with some services. So that's been submitted. Has it been approved? It's approved, but we don't know how much money we're getting yet. But, just to throw a curveball into this whole thing, we have a new state librarian, and his name is Greg Lucas. Lucas, like the Star Wars thing. So, I can't believe I didn't remember that offhand. Sorry, Greg, if you're watching. But he's taken an interest in, I'm sure he's not, taken an interest in Coding Camp for Kids, a Minecraft program, and is trying to figure out a way to make that program available more here and more statewide. So we're sort of in a conversation with our state librarian right now around how that might happen, and the fact that Rebecca is just one person and she has a job that is a regular job, and can only do so many things with the one person. We wish we could all be cloned, and that would be great. So we'll see what happens, but there's definitely some money coming our way.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
You want to see?
I'm excited too.
I think we need to be having ways of knowing, the public knowing what wonderful things are going on in our library and what our staff is doing, and this is one way to do it. And also just ALA is coming up. I know you're planning on going. When is that?
It's the end of June, the 26th or 27th.
Right, and where is it?
Las Vegas.
Oh, that's a shame. And the books you read in Las Vegas stay there. And then you folks are in publicity for the the CLA? Did I read that? And when's that?
November 7th, 8th, and 9th.
In
Oakland. Yeah, so it's a hometown conference this year. We expect everybody to go. Both Rebecca and I are on the publicity committee, and Rebecca is on the conference planning committee. Just another thing for her to do.
All right. Any other comments or questions about the monthly report, management report? Any public comment about the monthly report? Okay, we're now moving into the status of the evaluation system. Where's that? The performance management report. Any questions from the commission about that? None?
I like the new format. It's easier to follow. So thanks.
No comments. All right. Public comment about the performance management status report? And moving along to the monthly financial statement. Were there any questions regarding this monthly financial statement? Commissioner, anything? No? No? Anything from the public on the monthly financial statements? We did talk about the fact that with the new reportings, the new system coming in July, there may be other ways to do reports. So those of us that are still around will be looking into what is going to be happening with that. All right, lab appointments. We have a blanket reappointment of lab members here. All right. Any motion regarding these?
I'll so move.
You'll so move?
Yeah.
Second.
And Mary Evelyn seconds. All right. Any questions from the commission? Questions or comments from the public regarding lab appointments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Items to include in the commission notes. Welcoming our new staff members, our new leadership. Thanking our former interims. I would say something about the issue of bandwidth was discussed and looked at, and it's being evaluated. I don't know that the general public, I don't know that it's on their mind extensively, but the fact that we have established an OPEB trust would be useful to say.
There should be something about the special summer programming.
About the reading program?
Yeah.
Dr. Fizz's?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Anything else that people think? It's not a...
Well, I think we should probably put something about the new commission and some of the maybe new activities that are going to happen.
You mean...
No.
Well, we could announce the signing ceremony in August. The fact, probably it would be useful, I think it would be extremely useful, thank you, is that each jurisdiction within the next few weeks is going to be making selections of commissioners, and perhaps the lab members might have some thoughts or feelings or inputs about that to let their city council or board of supervisor know.
The digital branch
And what's it called? Eek or
Hanky.
Ank or Ook or Hanky or
Anki.
Anki. Anki is the new ebook system, the new big ebook list.
Hinky?
I'm sorry.
Will there be any hanky-panky going on?
I think so. You're welcome. Thank you very much. All right. Anything else? Thanks to the commissioners who've served so many years. And anything, the retirees. We could have an emeritus group. Commissioner Emeritus.
Commissioner Advisory Group.
Any other questions or anything else for that document? No. People are folding up their papers yet, and I have not closed the meeting.
Just organize it.
All right. There being no further business, the next meeting is Monday, July 7th in this room. We will be evaluating the use of this room at that point, by the way. And the meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.
It's like a perfect game.
Keep it.